Here is the 18th through the 21st. As you guys know, Monday was President's Day, so the market was closed. However, Tuesday through Friday was open normal hours. So on Tuesday, I had a $259 loss. Wednesday, I had a $560 win, which is my best day to date. On Thursday, I had a $1 win, which was just a break-even trade. And then on Friday, I had a $303 win. So overall for the week, I was up $605. What's going on YouTube? This is your boy Alex, and today we're doing a recap of my trades from this week, February 18th through the 21st. So for the month of February, my monthly goal has been $3,000, and broken down into 4 weeks, that's $750 per week. And honestly, I'm pretty far from reaching that goal, and the reason is because I think that $3,000 has been such a big deal in my head, and every single day I've been trying to take a trade so that I can make money even when there's no trade to take, or just taking a B setup or a C setup instead of looking for those A setups that have a lot more potential and a lot higher chance of actually going the way that I want it to go. And so because last week was such a difficult week for me, where I was really trying to make $750 on the week, that I ended up having that just play through my head every single morning, and that made me be impatient with trades, and that made me just literally take anything that was there. I didn't have very solid trade plans, and even though I knew I shouldn't be taking a trade, I ended up just taking it because I was like, man, I really need to make my $150 today so that I can hit $750 on the week. And because of that, last week I did very poorly. I think I was down like $19. But over the weekend, I was just really thinking and kind of going through all my trades again, and I wanted to make sure that this week was going to be better. And so I really just tried to change my mindset and not really have that $750 goal in my head. If there's a trade to take, be ready for it, but if there's not a trade to take, just sit the day out. So because my head was a little clearer going into this week, I did trade a little bit better, but I still made a lot of mistakes because I was impatient with trades. And even though I had better trade plans this week, I was still so eager to make money that I went into trades early, and if I could have just waited and been patient, those trades would have worked out, but instead I had to either take a loss or go break even. And before we get into all my trades this week, I need my usual cup of joe. Just kidding. Unfortunately, I'm actually filming this at night, so if I take my cup of joe, I will be awake for the next 12 hours. Alright guys, let's jump right into this week's trades. As you guys know, Monday was President's Day, so the market was closed. However, Tuesday through Friday was open normal hours. So on the 18th, so on Tuesday, I had a $259 loss. On Wednesday, I had a $560 win, which is my best day to date. My previous best day was back in January sometime. And then on Thursday, I had a $1 win, which was just a break-even trade. And then on Friday, I had a $303 win. So overall for the week, I was up $605. Let's jump into the recap. So on the 18th, on Tuesday, I traded GNPX again for a $259 loss. Now this was a stock that was running really strong for 2 days. If we look here on the daily chart, this is for 3 months. As you can see here, the prior day, which was I think the Friday, had run pretty hard all the way up to 575, and then it closed pretty weak, close to $4. So in pre-market on Tuesday, it was in the mid fours. So I was thinking that, okay, so the day before it ran up to 575. Right now it's in the mid fours, so it's down quite a bit from its highs. It looks like this could start to roll over, so I was thinking that today could be the first red day. I also saw that the pre-market volume was pretty low compared to the previous day. Here is the day that I traded it on the 18th, and it had about 20 million volume, and the previous day had around 80 million volume. So clearly has less volume. People are losing interest in it, and that was the second reason why I thought this would be a good short, because lower volume means it's most likely not going to be able to break out and it was down quite a bit from its highs. What I did wrong was I was really impatient with my entry, and as you can see here, I got in pre-market at like 450. I threw on a third here, and this started coming down. I was like, oh yes, I'm right, you know. And then all of a sudden, right before the open, it had a 1 minute candle or something like that, where it just squeezed really hard from like 430-ish up to like 470. And this is when I started getting scared. I was like, okay, this is not over. But instead of just cutting, I ended up adding into the morning. And in the morning, it was pretty choppy. Dropped down here, like flushed, but then it held this level twice. So that's when I knew there's probably going to be a squeeze coming, and that's exactly what happened. It squeezed pretty hard, broke the pre-market high at 475, and it squeezed all the way up to 539. I ended up throwing in another third up here right below $5, which was really stupid because this clearly was still in an uptrend. It didn't show much signs of reversal. I did, like for, like 30 seconds, I kind of saw some struggle here right below 5, but there still weren't any red candles that were telling me that, hey, this is coming back down. So I ended up shorting my second third too early, and then squeezed up to 539. So I was down a decent amount, but I was still pretty convicted on my trade that I let this kind of play out. It came down, it flushed, but again, it didn't break the support. Bounced and then double bottomed. Not double bottom, but this had a much higher low. And then finally this squeeze. This is kind of when I should have just gotten out here. But my ultimate risk at this point was just $5, that if it broke $5, I'd have to get out. And I just ended up covering here into the squeeze over $5. I had some slippage. I didn't get the exact exit I wanted, but whatever. And then it ended up just kind of staying in this area for the rest of the day. So that was Tuesday's trade. My entry was 468.5. My exit was 504.8 for a 7.75% loss of $259. So overall, a good trade plan. I would say there's nothing wrong with this idea of that lower volume, down off its highs, starting to looks like it's starting to roll over, but I was just impatient, and so that's what caused a pretty big loss for me on this one. Now on Wednesday, a $560 win, which was the biggest win this week and my biggest win overall. Now this one was very interesting because this was GNPX again. I wasn't going to trade it initially because pre-market it was up quite a bit actually. I think it was up like 20% or so, maybe more or something, but I saw this grind, so I was like, you know what, not touching it, it's not over yet. However, right here from 593, it flushed all the way down to like just below 450. And then I was like, okay, this looks exactly like an offering. So I started looking at the news on Stocks to Trade, and there was nothing. And I kept refreshing, clicking the button. I'm like, this has to be an offering. And I know that Stocks to Trade the news is always late. I kept refreshing. It was like 10 minutes later, and there's still nothing. So I was like, okay, if this isn't an offering, and this has seriously just reversed its trend, so shorting into this bounce could actually be a great trade because this could be finally the end of this run. And so that's what I did, and so I shorted at 517, and then literally like 10 minutes later, the news came out. A second article came out with the actual news of the offering, so it was right on that, and then I just completely flushed from $5 down to $4, and that's where I took my cover. And so my entry 517, my exit was right at $4, and for a win of 22.63%. Now Thursday, this was a pretty terrible trade. I initially wasn't going to trade this at all because pre-market this had a huge gap, I think like a 60 or 70% gap, and it showed no signs of going back down. It was still right at its highs, going right into the open. My plan was to actually short VIVE, which ended up working amazingly that day, but for some reason as soon as this opened and shot straight up, I decided to short because I saw how much downside this had. So this was a super emotional trade. Like, I literally had no reason to be in the stock at all. The only thing that I saw was, if you look at the daily and you go all the way back like half a year, it had maybe some kind of resistance here at 4. So my thought was like, you know, there could be some resistance at $4, and that's actually exactly what happened. It topped out here at $4, but I got in at like $3.50, so way too early, obviously. So that didn't make any sense. And then I added into the second push, you know, up to $4, and I was like, okay, you know, I think I'm right. Came down, held support, started coming back up. And at this point, because I've seen this so many times, high or low, you know, support holds and starts squeezing, I just got out to be safe. And most of the time, when that happens, this thing will keep going. It's going to squeeze much higher because shorts start covering, people start buying the breakout. In this case, which is much more rare than seeing a huge squeeze, this broke out of this made a new high, but then it flushed back down. I guess just didn't have enough bid to support it, and then ended up grinding all the way back down. Just grinding back down, I guess. Honestly, a terrible trade, not something that I should have been in the first place. And even if I let myself trade it, I should have been shorting closer to 4, where it had previous resistance, and not down here in the mid threes. Entry at 369.5, exit at 366 for a 9.5% win. And the reason it was only $1 is because commissions ate up the, you know, whatever I did make on it. So now Friday, depending on how BBI gapped, I was going to take a short. However, what I did want to do is stay really patient with it. Pre-market, it was gapping down like 4% or so. Right at the open, for 1, 2, 3, it looks like, or 4, so like 4 minutes, it flushed to 275 from like $3. And then I was like, okay, I'm gonna try to start shorting into the bounce. So I ended up bouncing. The volume was so little that I thought that like this is gonna, once it starts bouncing and gets more and more volume, this could end up squeezing hard. Because what I've seen is like at the open, if there's very little volume on the first few candles, like 100K is not very much. Because the other day it traded 32 million shares, so $100,000 on, you know, the open candle is nothing. And so what I've seen happen is low volume open ends up getting a lot of volume into the bounce, and then they squeeze hard. So I was cautious with that. What I didn't do well is, I mean, I could have gotten a better entry, but because it squeezed hard, I should have let it kind of play out first, and then to see the backside first, and to see it fail the bounce. I guess in this case it wasn't too bad because I got in at 295 and only went to 304, so I wasn't down much at all. Came back down, back to 275, doubled bottom here, and so this is where I kind of started getting nervous. And then all of a sudden it squeezed to like 290, and I was like, oh crap, I know how this is going to end. It's going to end up squeezing. But then it failed, and then it finally broke this 275 support. And then at this point I was up close to 10%, and I just wanted to take profits. And this was already getting into, you know, like 10:30, and so that's usually when stuff kind of reverses trend or bottoms out or something. So I just took profits into this micro panic, I guess, and that's exactly what happened. It bottomed here, bounced really hard, saw it a little bit, squeezed again, and then end of the day it just ended up going higher. It made new high, 332. I did take a piece of this most of this move, but it did hold up. I'm thinking this has a lot more upside to it because today's volume was very little, so the sell-off was very small. So if we start getting more volume to the next couple of days, this could break out and keep going. So that would be amazing because the higher it goes, the more downside there is, so the more money it can make once it actually finally starts coming down. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please leave a comment. Please like the video. Please subscribe. Again, thanks for tuning in. See what happens next week. And I'll be doing a monthly recap for the month of February next weekend. And I will see you guys later. Peace.